Welcome to the fifth episode of the Emma Kinsey Show. In this episode, I speak to Mucha about his own experiences and routines of alcohol freedom. He's a great speaker. He's so eloquent. I loved speaking to him and getting to know him through this episode. He's such a great speaker and he has such a lovely energy about him. Sit back, enjoy the episode. Mucha, tell us about your relationship with alcohol now.
Now, it's very much an on-off relationship by design, because for the last couple of years, I have done what I call 100-day no booze sprints, if you like. And sprints probably not the word, but I just go 100 days at a time with no alcohol. And it's been like that. I started it last year. I did it twice this year. And in about just less than 3 weeks' time, I'll be doing it again.
Nice. Beautiful. Do you know, I've never met somebody before who does those 100-day sprints, as you call them, right? I think they're perfect because most people that I meet, like if they've done 100 days, they continue, or they decide it's not for them. They've done it. They've proved to themselves that they can go 100 days and then they go back to drinking occasionally. Maybe they're not drinking as much as before, but it changes their drinking habits. So of course,
no, I'm sorry.
So tell me, why did you first decide to do the 100-day sprints? And then why did you decide to continue doing them intermittently?
Yeah. So it first began just after, I believe, the second lockdown, or in between the first and second. I think it was after the second lockdown. And I'm pleased to say there was no sort of embarrassing or heartbreaking event where I woke up one morning and people say, you know what you did last night? It was none of that. But I just knew that you live by your rituals and your habits, don't you? And I had just gotten into the habit of drinking a little bit more regularly than I had at any other time in my life. I had gone from being a weekend only drinker, and not even every weekend, to drinking most days during the pandemic. And it's not as simple as saying, okay, here's the pandemic and let me drink. You're sitting around and you sip on a little something and it's pretty good, and a little bit more. And then it just became every day. And thankfully, it was just at a stage in the evening. But then again, it was creeping up to late afternoon and things like that. I had a friend who was a bit of a boozing partner in crime. And I just said, you know what? This is a little bit too much. And my friend was going through a few issues in their life as well. So I've always been one to think that the clearer the head is and the cooler, you are about something, the more you can think through. And booze probably wouldn't be the thing to help. So we had a couple of false starts. We both started. And then I think the furthest we got was 11 days. And I got a message, and my pal was just beating themselves up. Oh, I had some friends come around, and I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Are we going to have a glass tonight then? And then just one time I just thought, you know what? I'm not even going to tell her. I'm just going to do it. And so I started, and that was it. I just did that 100 days. And I remember it was so significant because it was during the European Championships 2 years ago. It was held here in the UK, and England got all the way to the final, and we beat Germany and we beat these different teams and things like that. And I just remember how fired up I was. And I was just drinking sparkling mineral water or J2Os and things like that. And I just remember that. I just remember being on such a high from the football and reacting to that high by just booging around and singing like everyone else, but not once just going to alcohol. So that was huge for me. And then that took me through to my birthday. And I knocked a few back. It was great. Went through to Christmas. And then it was January the 2nd, for good reason. January the 1st, I just said that. But January the 2nd, I said, look, I'm going to do it. Went through to Easter. And it just started then. July went through to October. So 200 days this year, yeah.
Amazing. And where did you get the idea of doing 100 days? Like, why 100? Why not a month or?
Yeah, well, I'm a 90-day sprinter for most things. I try and block out my year and my life and certain things, even if I'm going to work on a project or work with something, or if I just say, I'm going to do that for 90 days. I think 90 days, because 90 days gives enough time to really commit to something, but you see a definitive finish line.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, with booze, it's got to be something else. I'm going to go handy. So that's why it was just the 100 days. And as time's gone on, I've liked, particularly when I've done the two lots of 100, to turn around and say, look, I've gone 200 days without booze this year. And what I like about it, 200 consecutive days, not like the whole 100 and then a group and then 100. But what I like about it is 100, it's a good number. And it's enough of a time where you come out of it thinking, whew, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Amazing. And what was the reaction from your friends and your family when you said you were going to do it? Did you like tell them that you were going to do it, or were you a little bit more secretive and just did it without telling?
Yeah, a bit of both. I told my inner circle. I
Okay.
famously talk about my inner circle. I told them, and they have tremendous respect for anything that I do. I always go on a digital fast on a Saturday where no phone, no anything, do that. And my inner circle, I speak to them on a Friday. I tell them how much I love them and this, that, and the other. And I'll say, I'll see you Sunday sort of thing. And so when this was happening, I told my inner circle and they were cool. And you know what? It was really great because my daughter's mum bring up our child together. And I remember myself and my daughter had been in Scotland on holiday while I was doing the 100. And we drove down and we were driving back and from Scotland down to, it's a fair old schlep. And so when we got here, she said, look, why don't you come over for something? You're probably tired and this. And I said, yeah, great. Went there and I'll never forget this. She made a beautiful dinner and she had some glass of water for me. It wasn't, hey, look, you've just come back. And it was one of those beautiful summer days that we have here. The evening was out, sun was out. It was primed for a glass of Chardonnay or something. And no, just a bottle. And she had poured the glass out. And I thought, no, this is really cool. They get me, which of course I know they do. Beyond that, it's really interesting you mentioned this because I'm remembering now. It's almost like the further outside your inner circle you go, this is where people might challenge you or cajole you. And I went to see some boxing at just a bar. I like to get the atmosphere of boxing. And I remember getting there and at the start of the evening, when you're watching all the preliminaries, you're there and you're just talking to some people about the fight. And one guy was really cool. He goes, oh, look, what can I get you, Byron? I said, oh, just that. And he says, don't you drink? And I said, no, I'm actually off the... And he's like, oh, I was thinking of doing that. It's the first thing people you don't know say. I was thinking of doing that. Or how was it? I remember as the evening got on and he had a bit of a skinful, he got a bit hostile towards me. He's like, so what's with that? Are we not good for everything? So it was really interesting to see it at that level, how somebody's attitude towards me making that decision, someone who didn't know me really, really good. And now a friend of mine said it was actually the boxing. Said he probably just got the booze and the boxing and things like that. But it was the questions. It was like, so why aren't you drinking? So why aren't you? Yeah. And I thought it was interesting. So the inner circle, I got miffed with one or two friends who were like, saying, oh, come on, you can have one. And one of them, this was after something like 70 something days, where technically speaking, you can be pretty vulnerable. But interestingly enough, I get stronger as time goes on. So the family and the close friends were great and very encouraging.
Amazing. Did you find yourself like changing who you were spending time with? Because people always talk about like, their social circle does change because they realize that the people that they're drinking with, put down the pub, they don't want to be doing that anymore. They're doing different interests, different hobbies. So those social groups do change. Did you notice that within the 100 days?
To be fair, my people are my people. I tend to hang with them anyway. Okay. But if anything, I found myself doing more and going to more places because all of a sudden now I could drive. I could go to places and have my wits about me, if you like, similar to the boxing place, because sometimes aggro comes looking for you and just awkward situations. In fairness, don't think I hung out with the one pal who couldn't do the 100 days, who kept changing, but we always stayed in touch. My friends and my circles are my circles. But if anything, I think I did more. I think I just had more energy, more enthusiasm for just doing more things. Yeah. And to keep myself occupied.
Yeah, that's a big thing that people notice, that they have so much more time when they're not drinking.
And think time, bless him, my dear old dad. First time he ever said that, he used to say, son, if you think, I looked at him, I thought he was messing around. He says, yeah, but when's your time to think? And I'm like, Dad, yeah, I know exactly what he was talking about. The ability, you can journal, you can read, you can just really do so much more stuff. Because the other thing is, Emma, we try and say that, let's get something. We're not talking about, I've never been a quote unquote binge drinker, if you like. I would enjoy half a bottle and every once in a while, a bottle in a day and this, that, and the other and things like that. So I'll enjoy a drink and a few glasses of the stronger stuff, but just having a couple of glasses of an evening took away my ability to journal or write or plan my next day or get an early night, because on the back of the drink, I would wake up incredibly early, sometimes just hours after I'd gone to bed, if you like, unable to sleep. So the sleep was the really big thing.
Amazing. So you said that we live by our rituals, right? So how did your rituals change when you stopped drinking? So you said you had more time. What other things did you implement, different activities that you started doing?
I got back to playing the guitar a bit more. And because the interesting thing about the guitar is, and by nowhere close to even being competent with it, right? But one thing I do know is that you leave the guitar out. So when you go and get a cuppa and when you just go down to check the post and stuff like that, you strum a little bit and then you put it down, you go back and you strum a little bit. And it just gave me that ability just to sit down and practice these things, if you like.
Yeah.
And again, I have no doubt there are people who can sit down with a glass of red and play a guitar or do something else. But I started playing the guitar a lot more, the harmonica. I started mapping out a few books and screenplays I want to do in the future. I just had incredible clarity about saying, let's map a few things out here while we're in this very reflective mindset, if you like.
Yeah. Incredible. And what other benefits did you start to see as those 100 days were progressing?
Yeah.
From the drinking?
So the first 100 days, it was just the sleep and the rest. Honestly, I went from 4.5, 5.5 tops hours sleep to 8.5, 9.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, it was as big as that.
Incredible.
And that feeling of just going to bed at the end of the day, putting my head down and just sleeping through and things like that. It was just really good. The other benefits that I saw was with that kind of extra productive and think time, I began to say to myself, okay, while I'm doing these 100 days, what else can I do very intentionally during that? For example, I decided to write an email a day. And when I say an email a day, I'm be launching something in the new year, 365 emails, just showing people that you can actually email someone daily. You don't have to say, buy my stuff or click here now. So I used that time again, just to sit down and write. So, something quite possibly to maybe unconsciously take my mind off the fact that I was on this 100-day no booze, but really just jumping headfirst into something that needed the very best version of me to do that.
Yeah.
There's just an additional spring in the step, and without question, it helps you physically. There's no ifs and buts about it, because prior to that, I had already made a commitment to start getting back into better shape. I'm in my early 50s and my daughter she's 8 years old. I want to be around for her. And when I say around, healthy, I don't want to sort of go into the park and her old man,
wheezing away.
I worked very hard on my fitness and my training. But the minute I went off the sauce, as I've said to you before, the moobs started going down, that tire around my waist, the love handles and stuff like that. Just because you're not putting this stuff into you. And that whole calorie deficit, that just comes from just booze and work. And I got away with not going too nuts with what I was eating. Nothing crazy, trying to avoid the processed food as much as possible. But so, yeah, just the overall feeling. And I know that lends itself to you saying, so why the heck do you go back to it? I just do. I enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, completely. How did you see the benefits like show up in your business? Because you're self-employed, you have your own business, right?
Yeah.
So how did the no booze like show up in your business?
Just being ultra present, my people. And you know what? The one thing they'll say about me, they really will. They'll say, listen, this guy is so sincere towards us. He really wants us to succeed. He's very passionate and this, that, yeah. But what I found was with this extra time to journal and to see things and stuff, I really began to say to myself, man, that'll be good for Molly, or that'll be good for Carl, or that'll be good for Irina, or that'll be good for... There was just that additional, it's just like I just had more space, more capacity to bring things to them and be their extra eyes and ears, if you like, because I was just a little bit more aware of things. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really nice.
And the other thing for me, Emma, is that by design, because I'm in the UK and I've got an elderly mum who's 80 and I've got my daughter who's 8, my days often start, the majority of my clients are in the States. And for a while, a lot of them were actually on the West Coast, because when they're starting their day at 9 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I beg your pardon, it's 5 o'clock here.
It's 5 p.m.
So of course, there was that massive thing where I wouldn't be working on client stuff and getting blotto. And that never happened. Of the evening, you'll be working and you might have a glass with you or something. That stopped, of course. Absolutely. So it must have really just benefited them because I just wasn't drinking.
Yeah. A lot of people say that when they're not drinking, they can serve their clients a lot better and they're more in tune. They can really listen to what their clients are saying. All of those little subtle messages that sometimes we can overlook, especially if we're drinking, that it really helps that client relationship.
No, there is no downside. And it's great on the finances. And the other thing that I did, I'll actually show you. Yeah. Oh dear. So what I would normally, right. So this is So what I would normally sort of go ahead and spend on something, I'd put into this. So I'd put a few notes and things like that in it. I think I had 300 quid one time. And
from 100 days.
Yeah.
300, amazing.
Yeah. When you think about it, I like Martell cognac. I like a Macallan whiskey. These aren't inexpensive. And so by the time you get 3 of those or a couple, it adds up, or a few bottles of wine. So again, what I liked to do, really, let me just put this little fella. What I liked to do was focus on something during those 100 days, but also show, technically speaking, this is where the money, and it wasn't as mechanical as it sounds, but at the end of a week, I might have put 15 pounds in there because a bottle of Martell will cost me 25.
Yeah. It's not cheap.
No. So I definitely did that. And I remember just saying,
nice.
Yeah.
And it's all indirect expenses as well, right? Like the taxis to the place, maybe the takeaway food after a few, like whatever it is, like those other activities you do when you've had a few drinks.
Do you know, I was thinking of that. And because I write and I wake up so early in the mornings and stuff like that, I'm at a few gyms, and there's one that's like a 7-minute walk away. And it's £18 a month. It's 24. It's nothing. And ridiculous. And I go in there, I just do some very basic stuff in the early hours.
Yeah.
So I get 30 days where I could just go in and work on my body. And if I wanted to do the classes, I could do the classes for free. And that cost me £19. Yet I could get a bottle of something, and that's costing me 25. And that's done in a few days. We are absolute wizards of justifying things. I know that. And we have the emotion and we have the rationale. Don't give me the rationale other than give me the emotion. Just say, oh, it's been a long week. Fine. But the rationale of saying there is none.
No.
And so for me, I just say, look, I like a drink. What can I say? And I can live with that. But when I saw I get 30 days at this gym, 30 days for less than what it costs me to get this bottle here. And at that gym, I'm gonna look okay on the back of being there for 30 days.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. So when you said you lost a lot of weight in the first 100 days, like how much are you talking? Did you weigh yourself, or do you have an estimate?
I've started weigh myself because I work with this little dynamo of a personal trainer, and she does. So we've done it recently. But for me, it's always been about the clothes. Okay. I can just tell what I wear. I can tell when I'm going, blimey. I put the belt on and stuff like that, and tell. But it was pretty considerable, yeah. And actually, I put it on my Instagram page, and I've got a photo of myself, and I didn't even realize I looked like that. I'm like, and thankfully, my loved ones didn't turn around and say, "Hey, are you okay?" or this, that, and the other. And look, I wasn't Jabba the Hutt here. I certainly was a little bigger than I am now. But yeah, the weight, thankfully, having played sport all my life and things like that, and like I said, I'm like a dog with a bone once I get onto this. So once I really just decided to start doing it, the weight tends to come off pretty sharpishly.
Yeah. And as you say, it's the other habits. Like if you're going to the gym instead of drinking, of course, it just melts off.
What it is, and for me personally with the weight and all the rest of it, I tried to make it. First time round, I didn't succeed at it very well. And when I say didn't, I drank a bit of ginger ale and I did this. So what I've done recently with the last 100 days, off the pop, just no fizzy stuff at all. I do the mineral water. I love the mineral water, but no Cokes, not because it's very easy to do, to say, okay, I'm not going to drink and now I'll just have something else, if you like. And so I kept to just nothing carbonated. And I really made a point of that. And so going back to what you're saying, there's this almost holistic thing. Yeah. You stop drinking, you maybe drink more water, you do a bit of walking. I think that is the absolute secret weapon here. The walking, the water, and some good things. And of course, you're getting sleep, because losing weight and all the rest of it and controlling your weight, sleep is very important.
Yeah, completely. Nice. Did you notice that when you stopped drinking for the first 100, or even in the second or the third one, did you notice that emotions were coming up that previously you were numbing potentially with alcohol, or that wasn't part of your story?
No, I think I loved the clarity of knowing if I said something, I said it. If I didn't, I did not. Putting it down to booze or thinking, okay, I haven't spoken to this person for a while, but I've heard of it, so let me reach out and stuff like that. I like that aspect of having control of things. And in recent times, and this is true, and I've got no issue sharing it, I had a bit of upsetting news, and I remember we were talking and the person said, go home and just have a couple of swigs of Jack, and you'll be okay, but just to come. And I remember coming back and I went to the gym. I came back and I put my trainers on and I went to the gym. That was my get this out of my system.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, I'm winning at this. In answer to your question, emotions wise, listen, I'm as sober as a judge and you can hear me rambling on that. I talk regardless. So there are a few, I've become even chattier if you like. But emotion wise, no, I liked being in control of them. I liked the fact that you can still stay stuff and gather some courage up sober. If you don't have the drink to do it, you pick up the phone and you have that difficult conversation, or you look up and you analyze, okay, how's my business doing thing? You're just so in touch with, I've heard people say, what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling? How am I feeling it? Where, that when you're not drinking, you have tremendous insight.
Yeah, you really do. Amazing. And how do you decide when you're going to start your 100 days? Like you've done 3.
Oh, no, simple.
You've probably got one coming up.
Yeah, I do. And again, but this is the other thing, I think, and listen, I write, okay, so I'll go off topic a little bit, but it's kind of like when a couple or people are thinking of getting pregnant and stuff like that, you'll see some ladies actually look and think, okay, so we need to make sure you're home early from work on this day and that, okay, and then it's not a coincidence, right? It's like really, and so for me, I love Easter. I absolutely love Easter, and I like the blood of Christ and all the rest of it. So I go January through to early Easter, and then Easter time I will. And then I start again in July because my birthday is in October, middle of October. I go July where I will finish about a week before my birthday. So that's how I map it out. And then what happens is I go October through to the end of the year, and then I can go January to April again as that 100-day sort of thing. So yeah, I'm very strategic. Knowing what I know now, can I go without booze on my birthday? Of course I could. And at Easter, geez, I'm a preacher's kid. Mum never drank around Easter and stuff like that. Not after she became a preacher, that is. Before, that's a different story. But I could, but yeah, I plan it. And that is a big deal for me, Emma. Planning it really helps me because I go, okay, here we are. We're coming up to one of my favorite times of the year, January, February, March. It's no biggie. I'm looking forward to Easter. And then, of course, just before my birthday, October, and then leading and running up to this time. But having said that, honestly, I've gone back to just weekends only for the last sort of month or so. So just Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, and then that's it. But yeah, early January, I'll go back to it.
Okay, great. And what preparations do you do before you start the 100 days? Is there anything specifically that you do to prepare yourself?
It's mainly a mental thing. And what I've started doing a little bit more is just talking more about it.
Okay.
And it's really great because I talk to my inner circle about it. And I don't do a whole lot of marketing on Instagram. I say on Instagram, it's more spirit and soul stuff. And my inner circle, they just do not show up. They don't like anything. They don't nothing. But anytime I get to talking about the no booze, either like 10 days to go, or I'm doing this, or I'm 30 days, they're on there, which is awesome. So the preparation for me is more a mental one. I am still very mechanical. I make sure there is nothing in the cabinet. I had thought about trying it this last time, just leaving some bottles there and things like that. And I thought, nah, I'm just going to, why?
Yeah, why would you?
And it's just, and interestingly enough, and it couldn't have been that significant, but at the time it was very significant. Something happened during that 100-day booze. And my goodness, I'm quite sure I would have been tempted to just kind of think, shall I? Something really did. And the fact that I didn't have anything in the place really helped. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the preparation it's more a mental one. And then telling my people, not necessarily from a sense of accountability, but just telling them and hoping that one or two say, hey, can I join you? But none of them have so far. Not one.
And how's but yeah, somebody has to be in the right place and identify themselves.
This is absolutely it. And this is something we'll talk about towards the end here, is that you've got to just be, if someone turns up and says, look, I want to, and you know what, if they say I want to do 100 and they do 11, but those 11, they're there and they're really trying it, I turn around and say, what the hell's that? What do we do with the rest of the 89? It's fine. Yeah. I think as time goes on, I will keep talking about it, and I'll just say, hey, listen, I'm doing that, starting here, anyone, but I want them to make it as personal as I have made it, with the sort of why I do it at the start of the year and why I do it at the end. But I think there'd be more takers at the start of the year, because that tends to be the time when people are just really a bit gung-ho about something.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've had a lot of indulgence over Christmas, New Year.
From on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, texting everyone. I'm not saying the name, just saying, I wish you Happy New Year. And they send it out to 300 people. And then the next day it's, I'm doing this now. I'm doing this now. So I think what I might do, I might for the first time start texting people. Instead of saying Happy New Year, I'll say, hey, listen, a couple of days from now, I'm starting 100 days. Who's in? We'll see. I think that might be a good idea. It might be a bit of a change from that blanket text I've always been receiving.
Yeah. Just to see people's responses.
Yeah.
It's going to get them to
so
think
many of
about
them will
it,
still be a bit, because these things go out on New Year's Eve, but maybe they'll check it out the next day, and there's a couple of days for them to get on it. And hey, just because I'm starting on the 2nd, if they start on the 3rd, 4th or 5th, it's cool too.
Yeah, there's no need to start on the same day as you.
No.
Nice. No. If there was somebody out there who's questioning their drinking, they're seeing some negative impacts in their life or business, what would your recommendations for them be?
The first thing, Emma, I would do, and I say this genuinely, taking the emotion out of it, is there is no downside to coming off the booze, whether it's for a short period of time, a medium period of time, or a long bit. There is no downside. And we know and we see and we hear of the effects it can have on so many things, but also on your body and your brain, if you like. So if somebody's thinking about it, just as is often the case, just take a step, but you will be amazed at how you feel. I had a little bit of a teaser for this a good few years ago, because Dad was still around. I got sick late November, and I remember going on antibiotics. So I wasn't drinking or anything else like that. And we got up to middle of December, late December. I'm still feeling a bit rough, but I was better. And then Christmas Eve, I remember him saying, "Sonny, you can have something." I said, "Dad, probably tomorrow. I'll have something with dinner next day." And then I thought, you know what? I've got through this. I'm gonna have a dry Christmas and New Year for the first time. This was a year. So I went through Boxing Day. I think it was Boxing Day. I said, look, I'm going to go dry. And New Year's, that was, like I said, Dad's been gone 12 years. It must have been about 15 or 16 years ago. And I never once went back to that frame to say, at this time of year, I had a dry Christmas and New Year. And when I say that to people, that freaks them out more than the 100 days normally.
Yeah, Christmas and New Year, you have to drink. Right?
Yeah. But I was sick, so my hand was forced. And then because I just got through, I just thought, you know what? I didn't feel like a drink at Christmas. And then we had that week and that lead up to New Year's. And I just thought, man, this would be pretty cool to have a dry Christmas and New Year. And I did it. Yeah. So my advice is do it to see how it feels. And you'll be amazed at the benefits. You will see an instant effect on the quality of your sleep and then your clarity of thought. But what I hope the biggest sort of aha will be is that you don't need it to feel a certain way. You can feel that way just by feeling that way and telling yourself to feel that way, if you like. Because with the football, especially when we beat the Germans, my goodness, England beat them, you go into the town and everywhere. It didn't even cross my mind. To have a drink. And that's when I really thought, you know what, you've nailed this, because you're not associating needing a drink with something going on. And it's the same like a couple of months ago when I had some pretty lousy news and I came back and I went to the gym. That, whatever that did, and that was so much better than knocking something back and then waking up and feeling the downside of the news I'd been given, as well as the drink I'd drunk.
Yeah, the compounding effect. Yeah, sometimes it is just that disassociation. We're so programmed to think that like a romantic night is like a bottle of wine with somebody. And fun is, as you say, watching the football with your friends with a pint of beer or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And I'm an ad man. Tremendous marketing that sort of really latches onto the emotion of and the fellowship of drink. Or like a show, one of my favorite shows, like Mad Men, and Don Draper saying, "Can I have an old fashioned, please?" And you learn about that and you understand it, and it's glamorized, and it's, I think, like I said, if we take the emotion out of it and we have a look and we just see what just drinking does to us, and particularly then when we drink regularly, as many people do, myself included, prior to my doing the 100 days, no good was going to come of that. No good was going to come of that for me physically, personally, vocationally, financially. No good was going to come of it.
Yeah. Perfect. Mocha, thank you so much for your time and all
Oh,
of
it's
your
been my
insights
pleasure.
today. I'd love, could you just take a moment and tell people where they can find out more about you, your work, and also the work that you're doing in the 100-day alcohol-free
Yeah,
space?
absolutely. And thank you for this. It's been an absolute pleasure, Emma. Honestly, you're a joy to speak to, and you're doing such important work. You really are. And so anything we can do to support that. I suppose first things first, I'm created a page called nobooze100.com, and I'm going to document my own sort of little story there, but I'm also going to invite others to come in and join in and talk. So just go to nobooze100.com. And otherwise, just look for me online, muchamarapa.com. It's a bit of a mouthful, but you'll find me and just reach out. Probably on Instagram, just say, yeah, because I'm talking on there a little bit. But yeah, you'll find me.
Perfect. And we'll put all your links in the show notes below so people can find you, and also the No Booze website as well.
No, super. And interestingly enough, and quite ironically, with this next booze run, it's probably going to be off social for a while. I think that's going to, remember I told you I wrote those emails the last time. So with this, I'm going to, because I just, something good, amazing is going to come of that. Off the booze and off social for 100 days. I'll find something, probably that next bestseller or something like that. So you heard it here first.
That would be amazing. Yeah, the booze and social detox.
Yeah, yeah. But
Incredible.
this is the thing. We've got to challenge ourselves,
Yeah.
because you see, we have these devices that we're notifications and things like that. We need to challenge ourselves. And yeah, this is a world exclusive, me announcing those two, Emma. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that out of me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and sharing everything.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.